Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell here with my co-host Glenn Martin. Big old smile on my face because I am very interested in knowing what Glenn and all your guys' opinions are on the news that is swirling around the NFL circuits. But before we talk about it, I want to ask you guys quickly to stop what you're doing, hit the subscribe button, and check out the link in our description for our Patreon if you're interested in interacting with us more. But without any further ado, the news is regarding the guy behind me. If you don't know who that is, it's Julio Jones. People are pegging him as a trade prospect with the Baltimore Ravens. So let's get into it, Glenn. Is it real? I mean, what do you think the possibility of this is? And talk to me about the match possibility, those things. What do you consider here?
Yeah, so I believe it was Connor Orr wrote article in SI,
Right.
just to give you the source of where we're getting this from. And he mentioned that this trade could make sense for both sides. He wrote about how the Ravens flirted with some trades in the offseason at that position, at the wide receiver position. And they also mentioned how Lamar Jackson had openly lobbied for Antonio Brown in the offseason as well. And of course, he's been brought up multiple times since then. So it's coming from at least a place where it's a reliable source. So, and you know, as we all know, where there's smoke, there's fire. So you got to at least look into it a little bit. So the fact of the matter is they just fired their coach, the Falcons. They just fired their coach. They are 0-5 and clearly in need of a rebuild, or at least what do they call it? A retooling or
a restructure, a retool. Yeah.
They need something because it seems like they start this way every year. They have high hopes, all these offensive weapons, and then they come out 0-4, 0-5 out the gate. They had another couple epic meltdowns in the fourth quarter this season, which I think led to the firing of their head coach. But they need a restart. I mean, and you start looking at their team and like, who could they trade that could bring back any draft capital, which is what any and all restarts or rebuilds or you know, that's what they're targeting is draft picks. They need cheap talent, and they need to get as many shots at a good successful draft as they can. So, I mean, who else other than Julio Jones? I mean, I know he's also mentions Matt Ryan maybe being traded to the 49ers, which, I mean, seems unlikely to me. I know some people like the idea of that, reuniting Matt Ryan back with Shanahan, but they don't have a lot of trade pieces is what I'm getting at. And this guy, Julio Jones, could fetch a very large asking price and could bring back a first round pick or more. So, you know, I think it's possible is what I'm getting at, just because of the desperation of the team and the fact that they need draft picks. And this is a guy that could bring it back. Now, so then you want to pull up the contract, right, Jimmy? We pulled up the contract. Do you have it in front of you? Could you give us some details and kind of what, if it's possible from a contractual standpoint?
Yeah, give me 1 second here. So contractually, as far as we know, we believe that the Ravens have a little over $9 million in cap space. And the total, so Julio Jones was guaranteed, signed the 5-year extension and was guaranteed at signing $64 million. But if you break that down, the part of that guarantee was 2019 salary, 2020 salary, 2020 option bonus, and 2021 salary. So his total, obviously a large amount of that is already paid. Part of the set, if we did make the trade, part of his $11.2 million salary this year, we would pick up a little under a quarter of that based on the fact that, we're going into week 7 at this point, right?
Yeah.
So that's something.
Week six.
Sorry, yeah, week 6. So that's something to consider. But next year is his biggest within this contract that he has. That's still 2023. Next year is his biggest cap hit. Yeah. He'll be 32 years old, year 11. And it's 15.3 in base salary. But then you got to add on the signing bonus and the option bonus, of course, that are 7.75, making it a total of 23.5.
Yeah.
Or a little under 23.5. Sorry. So, but at the end of the day, I mean, if this actually did happen, if I'm the Ravens, I'm looking at it like this: Julio Jones for the rest of this year, which is, we have a serious shot at winning a Super Bowl for under 10 million based on the prorated, payment of his salary, is a bargain.
Mm-hmm.
But even next year, I realize that's a lot of money. But look at what these other guys are fetching, right? Like, no, I think it's fair to say that none of them are like, is Michael Thomas standalone better than Julio Jones as a standalone player? I don't think you could definitively argue that. I think that's
You could
a
argue both
toss up.
sides. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I guess what I'm saying is that, Julio is right there, right? To
Mm-hmm.
have a top three, undisputed top three wide receiver talent wise in the league, even at 23 and a half.
Yeah.
I don't know, might not be the end of the world. And we have some money to spend as far as Lamar being under the cap, Lamar being on a rookie deal. I don't mean, we have money to throw around, but we can afford some luxuries just like other teams have done in the past. So there, from a cap perspective, there is a way we can get there, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Now, Glenn,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw it back to you before I give you my answer,
Mm-hmm.
but we've gone through the cap. We realize that they're desperate.
Hang on, before you leave the cap, I just want to point out that although he's under contract for 2022 and 2023, he has no guaranteed salary for either one of those seasons. So
great point.
They could get out from under that deal before the 2022 and 2023 seasons even hit, and just completely get out of it, restructure, maybe come to a agreement to a new deal that's more team friendly. But I just want to point out the fact that his salary is not guaranteed in those last 2 years.
Yeah, great point there. Because that's definitely, I'm assuming that's definitely something that we would do, right? Like if we did pick up Julio, but we could be putting the cart in front of the horse. However, so we've talked about the cap. We've talked about the fact that the desperation of the Falcons is real, right? They need to rebuild, restructure, retool, whatever. And he's probably their crown jewel as far as assets that they can use to flip for trade or for picks.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, Glenn, where are you at in the likelihood of him ending up in a Ravens uniform? Like, what's your percentage at this point? What are you feeling?
Well, I'll say this: if I was Julio Jones, I might be wanting a trade there. He's battled injuries the last few years, playing in I think a surface that's less friendly than he would when he's in Baltimore. I think that when Baltimore made that transition to all grass fields in their practice facility as well as their stadium, I mean, and also the addition of that new strength, I'm blanking on his name right now, the new strength and conditioning team that they brought in that was similar to right around the corresponding time of that change of the field. Their injuries have went down. So
yeah, you guys all know him.
Luck,
he's the monstrous guy on the sideline.
Yeah, the diesel guy that's always standing behind Coach Harbaugh.
Yeah,
I don't want to guess at his name because I'll probably be wrong. But whatever you can call it luck, or you can call it based in a little bit of science here when they're moving to that all grass field and keeping their joints and stuff healthier. So if I'm Julio, I might welcome playing on that different surface. Although I'm not playing indoors anymore, I understand that. But that playing surface makes a difference. Whether your foot slips and doesn't grab and tear ligaments. I have a feeling that he would be happy to hear that there's going to be a new playing surface. But from the Ravens standpoint, man, they could use another possession receiver like him. That guy is he's the poster child for route running in the NFL. He's the guy that everyone points to as being the best at it. And at his size, at 6'3", 220, and also being an incredible route runner, and then a guy that can naturally high point and catch a ball. I mean,
and
he's
with blazing speed.
Yeah, I mean, he's the top of the top. So of course the Ravens would want to add a player like that if they can fit it under their cap. And that's the big question: if they can fit under the cap. I'm no cap expert. I go to over the cap and I look at the numbers and we think that there's a way, but and I think if there is a way that the Ravens will find that way. But the question is is he the piece? Do you feel he's the piece that puts them over the top? Because that's the only way it makes it worth it. Because if you're talking about giving up huge draft capital, something the Ravens do not do often. I mean, we talk about their deals as being great bargains in a way. They get Peters for a fifth. They get Calais Campbell for a fifth. They don't go shopping with their first two picks.
Yeah.
So for them to do that, they must think that he is the piece that they're missing, that puts them over the top, puts them over the Chiefs, and gets them into the Super Bowl. I don't know if they feel that way. I mean, what's your take? Do you feel that he would be the missing piece, that he'd be the guy we add that puts us in the Super Bowl?
It's a really tough question because Steve Saunders, by the way, is the name of the guy. I don't know the name. I looked it up. So
I wanted to say Steve, by the way.
Yeah, well, you're close. You had it right here.
Yeah,
but it's hard because it's really hard to answer that question. I'm gonna do my best here because when I think of what we need, I think pass rush, I think interior offensive linemen. I mean, I do think wide receivers, but if we can run the ball and get to the quarterback, I don't know how much improvement we need in the passing game because our passing game, while rated low, we have weapons to throw to. The problem is when we rely on it too heavy. But when there's a balance, the passing game is sufficient, more than sufficient. They do a good job when there's a true balance. So my concern is that with getting a guy like Julio, do you go further away from the balance that's needed for this offense to succeed? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's a concern for me. And if you're talking about, I mean, think about it. The last time we gave up a second round pick, that was to get Lamar Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Like, is he going to have a Lamar Jackson impact? It's kind of hard to at wide receiver, right? Like, he's not a quarterback. So it's a tough one for me as far as whether or not I think it makes sense. Obviously at the right, I mean, if they're sure, I'll give him fifth, but
no,
obviously that's never going to happen. So,
and they have a relationship. They completed the Hayden Hurst deal, which is important in the NFL that the teams have a relationship, and they do.
Yeah, they're both birds. I mean, that's important.
There you go.
So I honestly don't know if he's the answer to put us over the top.
I mean, the way I look at it is, if we're thrust into a situation where we are forced to come from behind, if that balance isn't able to be used at the time because they are in such a big hole that they have to throw, man, it'd be nice to have a guy like Julio around in that situation. And I think we agree that, the one thing that Harbaugh has been pointing to a lot, because there's not a whole lot more to point to when you talk about Miles Boykin's performance this year, is he points to his blocking every time. And so do most fans.
Every time.
Well, Julio can block too. Okay. At 6'3", 220. He is a towering force. So he can block too, which is apparently important. We know it's very important in our offense, but coach points it out a lot. So he can certainly do that. So, and adding another, hang on one second, adding another red zone threat to helping Andrews, I think that would be invaluable to the team. I think it would really help. I don't know for sure it'll put him over the top, but man, it would help a lot.
Yeah. So historically though, is Julio much of a red zone threat?
You're right in the sense that he doesn't catch a lot of touchdowns, but I think that's because teams flat out won't allow it. But I see your point. I do see your point, but I think we agree that Julio can be a red zone threat, right? I mean,
the other thing I want to mention too that I think people will think about is, will he be happy in this offense? And the one thing I can say about Julio that I believe is that he is the most drama-free, non-diva superstar wide receiver that I think I've seen in this era. He's just, he's had his moments, but in comparison to the guys that are in his talent level, he's not about the drama. He's not about, causing a fuss on the sidelines, getting 15 targets a game. I do believe he's committed to winning. I think a lot of that comes from playing for Coach Saban and being at Alabama. And him as a person, but I think that was cultivated in going to a program like that, where it's team above everything, at all times and in all places. So I do think that while he's not going to get the Matt Ryan, Julio Jones connection type stats that historically they've put up, I do think he would be happy to win, right? And that's important that he's happy here. So I think that's the other one to look at, but I'm going to give you my answer, Glenn. I'm going to tell you definitively right now, and Ravens fans, don't be sad.
Oh, no.
It's not going to happen.
Oh, no.
Julio Jones.
Why you got to rain on our parade, Jimbo?
Look, it is more likely. I firmly believe it is much more likely that we get Antonio Brown than we get a Julio Jones.
Wow. No.
Yeah.
No way. No
I just think,
way, Jimmy. You just talked about the guy that Julio Jones is. The lack of drama that Julio would be bringing to the locker room. That's the exact opposite of Antonio Brown, in my opinion.
Hold on, though. We're going to play telephone, though. All right? I'm the Falcons.
Yeah.
You're Eric DaCosta, okay?
Okay. All right.
Ring ring, Eric. Hey, I got Julio Jones. You gonna give me a first rounder?
Oh,
Because if yes, Julio's yours.
dang it. You may have
Eric's
gotten me there.
Eric's not doing. He's not gonna do it. He's not. They value the first round pick too much. I just think that's the case. I think it's the way
Do
he's
you,
been taught.
but do you agree with that? Because I think if you trade a first round pick, as long as you win, it's all good and great. You know, then
Right.
it's a great deal. But if you don't, then it's
Well,
a
ask the
problem.
Rams about how that's going.
Yeah, it didn't go well for them. They are in but
So
although they did just sign Jalen to a pretty monster deal. So I guess they're not in as
But
much
what I
cap
mean
hell
is
as
that
I
like,
thought.
are they really contending for a championship? I guess. Like, are
Right.
you really thinking they're coming out of the NFC? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is like historically teams that have done that, I don't know how
Hasn't really
well they're
worked
doing.
out. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
So
also
that's my concern.
historically, how many high paid, these 50, 60 million guaranteed receivers have won Super Bowls? There's not a ton of
Right.
them when you look back
Yeah.
in history. So yeah, it's something to think about, but it just when you hear it and when you see it peeking over your
start to
shoulder,
salivate, right?
oh man, it would be fun because man, is he good. Holy
But wait,
smokes.
you didn't give us.
All right, I
what do
think
you
the
think's gonna happen?
percentages are very low. I think it's I agree with you, and it's because of the cost, and that's yeah, they would love him.
Not the salary cap, right? You're talking about the
Right.
equity given up. Okay.
Yeah, because I think you're right. I think there's going to be a team that gives a first and certainly at least a second, and we know that Eric DaCosta was absolutely miserable that second round. A couple was it last year or the year before that he had to sit around and sit on his hands for an entire second round, not happy at all, and he said he didn't want to do that again. So I believe him, and man, but sometimes it would be, I don't know, it'd just be nice to have a true
I know.
number
Dude,
one
when
receiver.
I saw Mike Williams make that catch in the Saints game, I thought I will give up anything.
And he's not even their number one. Keenan Allen was hurt in the first quarter of that game.
But just to have a guy that has the
Thick and
ability
high
to
point,
go up,
yes.
exactly, go up and get it.
Not Miles Boykin, who plays way smaller than he is and way softer than he is. I don't understand it, but don't get me started on Miles Boykin.
Yeah, so I'll say it once. I said it once. I'll say it again. I think that AB is more likely to be in a purple.
I disagree with that wholeheartedly. He does
Look,
not fit the culture of the Ravens organization.
I don't think either of them
whatsoever.
are very likely. But that's how low I think it is that Julio. We're not giving up a first round.
I give it a 0% chance on Antonio, and I give it a 10% chance on Julio.
Wow. So this is the thing, and we'll cap it off with this here. And I mean, unless you got more to say, but think about what the Rams gave up for a corner. They gave up 2 first-round picks for Jalen Ramsey. 2. I mean, isn't that going to be the floor for Julio? I realize he's older. We're talking about Julio Jones, though, dude.
Yeah, but that age thing is a big factor between the two of them. One was entering their prime. The other one is 31 years old.
So you give up a 1 and a 2 then, right? Like that has to be the lowest they.
Oof. Well, then the Ravens are definitely out of that.
Right. If not 2 1s, then a 1 and a 2. I mean, what else?
And there's no way they'll give that up. You're right. There's no chance. So if that's what their asking price is, then sorry, Ravens fans, it's not happening.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see if any news comes out as far as what they're fetching, like what they're attempting to get back. Right. Now, I don't know if we'll get that, but maybe
if the news comes out, you know what that news will be. It'll be inflated, even if it is, because it'll be leaked. Yeah. They want the stars. They want the moon and the sun. They want it all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Well, it's going to be interesting, that's for sure. I'm really interested to see what happens, and I do think we will make a move. I just don't know if this is going to be the move.
Yeah, right. I think when the salary cap or when the trade deadline, comes closer, we'll do a video, we'll do a show breaking down all the potential trade candidates, and I know we'll nail their target in one of them. Okay?
That's right.
But anyway, take a time, please hit the subscribe button, give us a like, and we'll talk soon.
See ya.